Good afternoon, good evening everyone, and welcome to the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series here for round number 6 at Summit Point. My name is Daniel Handover, and joining me in the commentary box this evening, replacing a rather poorly and unwell Ewan O'Leary, which we do wish all the best, and in him getting better, is Mr. Zach Sweeney. Zach, how are you doing this evening?
Absolutely stellar, Daniel, and yeah, really looking forward to today. Of course, quite a while ago actually I commentated on this series, so yeah, really looking forward to be back. And of course, as you say, wishing you I say a speedy recovery. He's not in surgery or anything like that, a bit under the weather, but yeah, let's hope he can get better. But more so, over to tonight, it's a good circuit, should be a good race.
Well, absolutely. I think, to be fair, we all know Summit Point. It's a track that pretty much everyone has driven, regardless of whether they particularly like it or not. That's the other question. But yeah, in terms of a track, it is a tight, twisty circuit. It's got some long section. You can see in the top there as well, the 5, 6, 7 complex is a very tight section. Then you get the last corner. That's very fast. So is turn 3. Everyone's just out for a lone qualifying in a second, which we are going to jump to in a few moments' time. But what I'm going to do very, very quickly is just have a quick look at the current championship standings, because a few things have changed since we were last looking at this championship board. So if we bring this up now, what we are going to see is Luke Maxwell leading the championship with 155 points, a fair few points clear of Simon Edwards, who is with us for this round. He wasn't attending last round, but he is back, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Jeremy Bird 3rd, Graham Brown 4th, Oliver Ettridge in P5, Dominic Webb still in 6th, Paul LeMay 7th, Martina Ward 8th, James Child in 9th, and then Paul Crabb rounding out the top 10. So that is your top 10 in terms of championship points. And obviously the remainder of the points down there. It's still close in the midfield. Like I said, we're now at the halfway point. This is the halfway point now. And it's still very, very close. It's very close to the top 5 only being within the 100 points. But then you've got Dom Langweb with 99, Paul LeMay 95, 88, 87, 86, 85. It's very, very close, pretty much the rest of the way down the field in terms of championship position. So a lot can happen. There's still 6 rounds to go, remember. So a lot can happen here. So moving forward now down into the racing itself, qualifying I should say. Remember, short track, we've already got a couple of drivers that will be that have crossed their or that will be doing their first lap times very, very soon. They will be coming on the board. Simon Edwards, an early adopter in the purple sectors that we can see. So I have a feeling, Zach, that Simon Edwards is certainly going to be up there after his week's hiatus.
You would expect so, of course, coming into what would have been going into round 5, of course, didn't attend as the championship leader. You have to expect that he is going to return on form, and of course, with that hunger just to try and return on a high, get that momentum back into it. Because over the course of a season, you'll get yourself into a rhythm, and you'll start to build that momentum and try and get a string of results. To then have that broken by not attending, he's going to really look to try and build that momentum back up and to put a good qualifying lap time in. It's the perfect start to do so.
Absolutely. Well, purple sectors all round. Purple sector for sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3, and he's a half a second quicker, or just under half a second quicker than Luke Maxwell, the current championship leader. But all the times are coming in thick and fast. What's Darrell Taylor going to do for his first lap? Graham Brown, you just see, goes up into 7th. Paul LeMay, Darrell Taylor's 8th. Paul LeMay goes up into 5th. This is where it's going to get very, very tricky, because it's going to be a bit hard to keep up, in all honesty. We've got Phil Glover. He's going to be setting first lap time. He goes up into 9th provisionally, but still a fair few people to go. Dave Kirkman coming out of the last corner. He'll be able to use a little bit more circuit towards the end there, so there'll be a bit more time in it for Dave Kirkman as he comes across the line. He now goes into 10th. Martina Ward up into 7th. So the gap, what's that, half a second now? Very, very close in the mid... Well, 2nd to 5th is very, very close, or 2nd to 4th, sorry. Opens up in the midfield, but the midfield it's close as well. Currently 3 people, all within lap times, are about 2 or about half a tenth of one another. So you can see that midfield is going to be a very, very interesting race, but there are still a few people that haven't set lap times, I would imagine, due to some form of off-track or something similar to that. So I've just seen Austin Greterex move up into 3rd place. So he's overtaken Paul Clark. Paul Clark, another very, very strong performance in qualifying. Are we going to see an improvement from Paul LeMay? We are going to see an improvement from Paul LeMay. He goes up into 5th. Mike Busson, what's he going to do with his second lap? Does he improve? And it doesn't. He does improve with that last lap with a 1:11.201. But Mike Busson, I'm sure we're going to see some more times come in from him. If he does, yeah, they'll definitely be faster than that. He must have had a couple of lockups or some offs. So we'll be seeing Mike Busson further up the field, I am sure. I think that was Darrell Taylor just slotting into 6th. There's Damien G going into 7th with his first flying lap now counting. And this is the other thing, Zach, isn't it? Where a track like this that's so short and that's actually very, very difficult to overtake, even though there are quite a few opportunities, possibly, turn 1 down into turn 5. It's quite a difficult track to overtake, especially in a car that's as fast as this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you often talk about cars, and you look at some single seaters, open wheel cars like the Formula One, and it's not that the cars themselves aren't very raceable. It's just that they're so quick in that sense that the margins are so fine that if you make a mistake while trying to overtake someone, it can be drastic for not only you but the person you're trying to overtake. So you do have to take that extra air of caution when trying to overtake someone. And of course, this track doesn't help itself in the sense that yes, on paper you look from top down, there's some key overtaking opportunities, especially turn 1 as it tightens and widens, and of course a couple of braking zones. But you look to the left, you look to the right, it is just grass, and again it comes down to those fine margins that all it takes is the tiniest of mistakes. So drivers often will just take that air of caution, be a bit more patient with it, and potentially just wait for that mistake to happen.
As you say, there's a few tactics that can happen here. We'll have to see how the racing goes. Richard Brown just goes up into 14th, as we can see now on your screen. A couple of drivers still yet to sort and actually hit a lap time that I've noticed here. One of which is Scott Lear, who's actually, I think Scott Lear's just jumped into the server. I believe Phil Jocelyn hasn't set a lap time, neither has Dave Rolliston, but they did start a little bit later in their qualifying sessions. So they do have a little bit more time to go. Darrell Taylor now goes up into 5th. Simon Edwards, Greterex, Maxwell and Clark. So bear in mind, Austin Greterex, last time we saw him, he was in 3rd. Now he's in 2nd. Very, very close indeed. It's closed up very, very much now at the front of the field, which we naturally assumed it would have done. It's really close to that midfield. That midfield is going to be so tight. We're going to have to keep an eye out for that. Dave Rolliston now goes up. That's that P14. Martina Ward immediately responds and now takes that position back, only by, what's that? less than a tenth of a second. What's Jamie Bird going to be able to do? Third lap, is it going to be one that is going to be an improvement on his 1:0.105 as it stands? And I don't think there's going to be an improvement. No, there is not. So Jamie Bird, again, normally seeing him a little bit further up the field, but racing is a lot different from qualifying itself. So again, we need to keep that in mind. I'm pretty sure everyone has now finished their laps. Yes, so everyone's finished their laps. So anything after this now won't actually count. It will simply just be something that they'll be using as a bit of additional practice. They've got another little bit of time, so the practice that they're going to use, they may as well use it. Why not at the end of the day? Big lockup there for Jamie Bird. Okay, so the lockups here within this car, this is going to be tricky. So one of the characteristics of this new car, is what we've been speaking about with a few drivers, is the fact that the brakes are a little bit snappy, a little bit sharper. Dave Rolliston, there we go with his second lap. He's got one more lap to go, bear in mind, so potentially more time in it for Dave Rolliston. And he is now up into 7th place. Another, look at that, another 100th of a second. And he'll actually be, another thousandths of a second. He's qualified ahead of Patrick Charlton. He's only got to make another 100th. And he will be into P6 in the 103. So we'll see if he can manage it. But yeah, the characteristics of the car, very, very sketchy on the brakes if you're not careful. There's two things that can happen. They happen very, very suddenly. You either get the front to lock up, which you have to react, or the rear locks up. And there doesn't necessarily seem to be a correlation in terms of driving style. It just seems to sort of, it's a bit of pot luck. If the rears or if the brakes are going to lock, you have a bit of pot luck as to which side or which end, whether it's going to be the front or the rear. So you've got to be careful. And going into somewhere like turn 5, where you've got a nice downhill section that's a very, very fast downhill, it's going to be tricky for the drivers.
It really is, and again, it just comes into how, especially around a circuit like this, consistency is going to pay dividends as David Rolston goes up into P5. So did, in fact, manage to improve in the end and up inside the top 5. As you say, incredibly close amongst the majority of the field. So, yeah, really looking forward to this race. But, again, it's a tricky circuit. It's a tricky car to handle. Not one I've had a vast amount of experience with, but, again, I can play it by ear and just imagine what it's going to be like, because I've driven a fair few of tricky cars to handle, and it's just scary. You lose that confidence factor, and when you're not confident in yourself or the car, that's then when really the big mistakes can creep in.
Do you know what? It's a good point. It's a good thing where you mention that, because you're right. As it goes into, or once you get into a stage where, you almost have to get, a lot of laps in this car are needed to be able to make sure that you maximize that, and to maximise the car itself. This is a new car for people. It's only been out this season. It's only been out for the last 6 weeks. So it hasn't even been out for 2 months yet. Dave Rolliston, on his final lap, has just gone up into P3. I apologise the fact we didn't actually see that, but he did manage to go into P3. A very, very strong performance there from Dave Rolliston. I'm excited to see what this race is going to have. So, just we have the top 6 are all in the 103s, and the nearest makes no difference. Paul LeMay's in the 103s, to be fair, he's still a 104 dead. So this is going to be very, very close to the front. I'm not expecting, or what I would suggest to happen as well for these drivers, is not a lot of fighting in the first few laps. The last thing that you want. But going forward down into the the starting grid, Simon Edwards does take pole position with Austin Gretterit in 2nd, Rolliston 3rd, Maxwell 4th, Clark in 5th, Taylor 6th, Paul LeMay 7th, Patrick Charlton 8th, Dom Langweb 9th, LeMay in P10, Damien G will be starting in P11, Phil Jocelyn in 12th, Glover in 13th, Kirkman 14th, Dowson 15th, Ward in 16th, Jamie Bird 17th, Richard Brown, Mike Busson, Graham Brown, and then Scott Lear, who didn't set a lap time by the look. So drivers are coming on to the starting grid. Zach, thoughts? I mean, like I said, I don't necessarily expect to see much battling, especially at the top 6. They're going to want to try and pull away if they can. And then as soon as the first 4 or 5 laps have gone, it's gloves off, I'd suggest.
As a driver, you want to settle into a race, get yourself into that rhythm very quickly, and especially for Simon Edwards, he's going to want to get that rhythm going quick and just branch away and try and secure as many points in this race as possible, especially with Luke Maxwell a little bit further back. So again, crucial race for him in the championship.
It very much is, yes indeed. So, not too long, and then we're going to be getting underway, and believe we've got one more driver to go. That's it. So Austin Greatorex and then Dave Dowson. 2 drivers left to go on the grid. And then we're going to make our way to... we're going to get the lights out and away we go. So... place your bets, everyone. It's a narrow track. Bear in mind, you can just see it's not room. It's not wide enough for 3 wide. We'll have to see how that goes. Everyone is now on the grid. Lights are about to come on. Who is going to get the jump down into turn 1? It's lights out, and away we go here for round number 6 of the UK and Ireland Radical Race Series. It's a good start as well from Luke Maxwell. He's got already at the inside going what it seems to be on Austin Greatorex. He didn't get the best start. He's down into 3rd position as they all come down into turn 1. At Constantina's up. You can see it already. It's a bit of door banging side by side. I think it was Dom Langweb. That was Dave Rolderson that's got... oh, no! Dave Rolderson got turned around there. I mean, to be fair, all in all, managed to keep it. What's happened to Dave Rolderson? Did he not have a very good exit going down onto turn 1? It didn't seem like anything was out of the ordinary, in all honesty. But either way, the gap has already opened up within that midfield at the start as well. Austin Greatorex struggling a little bit up ahead, but he is managing to hold with Maxwell and Edwards, and it's Paul Clark that's now got a 1.5 second gap already. So the top 3 have really made a breakaway early on in this race.
They have, and well, Luke Maxwell making the perfect jump from 4th up into 2nd place. Couldn't really have asked for more, and really well in that fight. Did not want to get caught up in those midfield battles, and just went forwards instead of backwards, and that is so crucial. A little bit further back, we're now having a look with Paul Lemay as they round the final corner for the first time. Incredibly close towards the front, and again, it's going to be a case of this slipstream train, isn't it? Especially in such a close midfield with how everyone is just going to Constantine up, and you're not actually on the brakes for very long, and we're going to see a bit of a battle here between Dave Kirkman, I think, and Guy, and off goes, I think, not entirely sure who that is, that's Langweb, Dominic Langweb going straight on at T1, still side by side between Kirkman and Damien Guy, and well, they're still going to go side by side. I think it is going to be Kirkman that retains that position, but what a strange incident there. Just again, those brakes already proven to be quite a struggle.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know where it was a bit of a lock-up, and then as the brake release came off, I mean, Dom Langweb did very well to avoid any collecting anyone else. It's just unfortunate that he did go off on his own accord, but yeah, very well to keep it all in check there, in all honesty. So, yeah, very weird one nevertheless. It's closed up in the midfield. That's Damien G that's going to go for a spot of grass cutting on the exit of the second to last corner, and what that has actually allowed is possible side by side. It was Dave Rolliston, I believe, making that move. Yes, it was. Dave Rolliston has indeed passed Richard Brown, although Richard Brown has decided that he doesn't want to give up that position that easily. This is still playing the hands nicely of Mike Busson, who's going to be sitting there and having front row seats to the side by side action that's going on between Brown and Rolliston. You can see Mike Busson is wanting to get involved in that as well. And just behind as well, Graham Brown. There is the front row seat that Graham Brown is now going to be watching. They're still side by side, and it is going to be Rolliston that manages to secure that move. Richard Brown has unfortunately lost a position also to Mike Busson, which is not ideal. He's lost 2 positions in the space of about 200 yards. Not ideal, but long way to go yet. We're only on lap 3 of 21. So 19 laps to go, if I can do my math. No, 18 laps to go. I am right. I need to trust myself more. So it is 18 laps. Not too... It's very early in this race. Tyre management is also a key thing, Zach. We've been talking about that as well throughout this series. The tyres seem to... or not necessarily people are struggling, but there's more of a tyre management incentive with these cars compared to the old ones.
Goes back to the brake issue as well. There's going to be that issue, I think, as we see Paula May on the defensive from Phil Jocelyn down in towards turn 1. But again, it will go down to that brakes. You have to minimise those lockups on both the front and the rear. And of course, you have to watch your right foot on the corner exits as well, just to minimise that wheel spin or the front tyres scraping across the floor as you go into a corner. And you do not want to be left vulnerable towards the latter stages of this race, because everyone around you, they've saved their tyres. They've done a really good job of using the slipstream, saving their tyres just a little bit, staying in touch, and then being able to use that last bit of life a little bit later on. And again, it is just going to be that battle of attrition between a lot of these drivers, especially more so towards the front, where those fine margins are really going to play more of a factor, because amongst the midfield, it's like, I can afford to lose a bit of time here because everyone's going to be battling. I'm going to be in the mix anyway. But if you're Simon Edwards, Luke Maxwell, or Austin Greatorex, you've got to be more careful and make sure you're amongst the fight.
Indeed, absolutely, very true. I've just noticed as well, I'm just trying to see who that was. I'm sure I saw someone with a very, very broken... It's Daryl... Yeah, okay, so Daryl Taylor has... I mean, his wing has seen better. To be fair, he's managed to keep it on circuit, so fair play. Can't exactly argue with that, but I fear he is going to be losing a little bit of time on the straight, which is unfortunate. So... yeah, he's losing a bit of time, but he's managed to keep it going. So can't argue with that. Fair play indeed. Quick replay here as well from, this is from Jamie Bird, who's had an off somewhere. So down into turn 5, I think. That's a tricky corner to actually tell, honestly. Yeah, it is turn 5. The infamous turn 5, as you go that fast right down, fast turn 4, right hand downhill into the braking zone. You've got gravity working against you there because it's pulling the car down. So, yeah, bit unfortunate there from Jamie Bird, but he manages to, a small off, manages to keep going, which is the main thing. Further up the field, though, what is going on? Simon Edwards has pulled a 1.1 second. Well, it's dipping in and out. I think he went a bit wide on the exit of turn 1 there, but he's managing to keep it a steady gap between himself and Luke Maxwell. Simon has been worrying about tyre management as well through the first half of the season. Again, just getting used to the car. It's something he has mentioned. In the fact that the car isn't quite where he wants to be at the moment. But, time will get there. And I think now we've got through the first half of the season, people are going to start getting a little bit more comfortable within the car. But tyre management, we'll see how that plays into factor. Luke Maxwell drove a absolutely perfect race, last race pretty much. So we'll see towards the latter half if that battle and that gap does start to come down. Well, Jocelyn Paul and May, they were side by side briefly at one point, going down into turn 2. That has now since changed, and Paul May is now leading by around about half a second on Phil Jocelyn. And then a little bit of a train behind Kirkman, Rolliston and Busson. Bear in mind, Dave Rolliston started in P3, so he's got a little bit of a ways to go. Slipstream working well. Unfortunately, Paul May is the one that's losing out. He's got no one in front of him. And Mike Buss and Dave Rolliston, they've got everything to gain because they're the two people at the back of this train. As well, that's going to be... Is that a brave move from round the outside of some... I think it was Dave Rolston going to try go around the outside of Dave Kirkman. That's brave. Is it going to work, though? He's lost a bit of time. You see Graham Brown there that's having a little bit of a look as well. He hasn't done it as of... Sorry, that was Mike Busson, apologies. So he hasn't quite done it yet. Luke Maxwell has had a moment, I believe. He has had an off. He's dropping time quite aggressively. He was dropping time aggressively, actually. I wonder a small little mistake there that has cost him. We'll see if we can get a replay on that, and we'll have a look at that in a second. But yeah, that's changed everything up a little bit. That's what it has done. Have a look at that. It's given Simon Edwards a big bit of breathing space. Gap was, what, a second when we last saw him? You can just see him up there. It's now 2.3.
It's going to be about maintenance now for Simon Edwards, I think, for the remainder of this race, just to keep Austin Greerix and Luke Maxwell just at that arm's length away to minimise the pressure, because, yeah, 2.5 seconds, it's not the biggest gap in the world, but it's a nice gap. You can worry about your driving moving forward rather than having to look in your mirror and focus backwards, so that's going to be crucial, and of course, with Luke Maxwell wanting to make amends for that mistake, as we see, a big lock up there from Dave Kirkman falling down the order. That's going to promote Rolliston and Busson up into P9 and P10. Has Busson got the legs in order to go for a move? Looking to the left-hand side, not quite close enough though into this long left-hander that's very fast, so not really somewhere you really want to look for a move. But of course, with the downhill braking section coming up, you might expect Busson to have a bit of a look, but Rolliston parking that car pretty nicely. But yeah, going back to the front, Luke Maxwell, he's going to want to make amends for that mistake. He's going to fight with Greerix over second place, maybe even just to minimise the damage in the championship. Of course, he's got a fairly substantial margin after Simon Edwards completely missed a race, but still it's all about minimization, because you look back in hindsight and think, could have gained a couple more points here, and mistakes like this are those things that you look back on. So yeah, Luke Maxwell going to try and make amends, and in doing so will just allow Simon Edwards to open that gap up even more.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I mean, in all honesty, I don't think that probably could have gone. As an off goes, and as a leaving the circuit goes, I don't really think that could have gone any better. Like, the amount of time that was lost was minimal. Considering if you lock the brakes up there and you go off, it's so difficult to get the car back. Because as soon as you get one wheel on the grass, the car just wanders away from you. You have, obviously, you're on the grass, you have no grip, so you have no ability to turn in any extra as the grip just disappears. So the fact that Maxwell recognised that and still got the car rotated enough that when he went on the grass to just go, do you know what, we're fine, and then pivot the car around still, and the fact that he already had that before he went on the grass, very, very good management, all things considered there, because that could have been very, very costly. You think, yeah, the gap is what? It's 4.5 seconds to Paul Clark? That's easily lost on the exit at turn 5 there. If you go off at turn 5, 4 or 5 seconds easily in terms of time loss. However, Luke Maxwell is in a position where P2 is potentially still on the cards, although Justin Greatorex is looking pretty aggressive at the moment. What I have seen as well is Dave Rolston has gone off as well. So let's see what happened here. This allowed Buston to go through. As we go, is it just a little bit? Keeps his foot pinned. Fair play. I think he does. Maybe a small lift, but considering that was again minimal time loss. You can't really argue with that, to be honest.
If in doubt, flat out. That's the philosophy he's living by. It's just, well, I'm on the grass. I'm going to be losing time anyway. There's no point just lifting off because, again, it just keeps the weight of the car predictable. We're going to see Martin Ward, I think, looking to the inside of turn 1. Are they going to get it stopped? Yes, they are. Pretty textbook, nice move. Are they going to keep it tidy on the exit? That's going to be the question. And indeed, they do, and able to move up into 15th place. And looking to try and get on to the back of Phil Glover there in 14th. And again, still this midfield very, very close indeed. But again, yeah, you already were seeing early days, not even halfway through or just approaching halfway through in this race, how that battle of attrition is going to play effect. Those that can keep it consistent, can keep it patient, more importantly, can just keep it on the road are going to be the ones that can reap the rewards by the checkered flag, because as we said, it's not the easiest track to overtake on. You're going to be, even if you can get past, we've seen time and time again how the car behind can just sit there and launch a counter-attack, and then you're stuck in that battle. So really not going to be easy, and keeping that track position, keeping it on the road is going to be really, really important come the latter stages of this race.
Absolutely, very, very true indeed. So yeah, Martina Ward already caught up to the back. What it looks like Phil Glover, the gap's around about half a second, so it stayed relatively similar to where it is. So Phil Jocelyn, Mike Buston, this is the closest battle we've now got on circuit, pretty much. The gap only being, well, it's less than 3/10 between the two of them. So it's really, again, who can look after the tyres the most here? Dave Rolliston, have a look. He's only 7/10 behind of Mike Buston. So this is going to be a battle that's going to kick off very, very soon. Make no mistake. And in fact, let's see if we can ride on board with Mike Buston just for a lap or so we can see how he catches up. Very, very moves across the circuit quite aggressively going down into turn 1. So that would have cost him a little bit of time there, but he has got front row seats to what's happening up ahead, because that is very, very close. You've got Paul May, Phil Jocelyn, and then Mike Buston. Obviously, Dave Rolston having been overtaken by Buston a couple of laps ago with the mistake that he had. He's looking to make up some positions. He knows he's got it in him. I still think, again, a very, very aggressive line going into the corner. This will be costing him. Unless you're in a position to make the overtake, it can be a little bit... it's not as cost-effective. It's better to drive your normal race line to maximise the pace actually going through some of these corners, especially the high speed. Turn 1 as well, unless there's an opportunity, it's better to try and set yourself up for the lap after when you can get even closer. Yeah, tiny bit of understeer, the aero wash working a little bit with the car. I've definitely noticed that, having driven this car a couple of times, I do notice the aero wash, especially in medium to high speed corners. So that will also be putting a bit of extra stress on the tyres, especially if you're not too careful. That's very, very late on the brakes. Oh my goodness, how did they all go through? Mike Buston's gone round the outside of Phil Jocelyn. What a move that was, and I'm sure Dave Rolliston will be applauding that move as well. That was very, very good. But are we going to see possibly Phil Jocelyn come back? It's turn 2 is almost impossible to overtake. Unless you are side by side, it's almost impossible. A move possibly into turn 5. Rolliston's a bit too far back, I feel. Yes, so no moves there for the moment. We'll come back to that. But meanwhile, further up ahead, though, this is going to be Martina Ward. That was very, very close to Phil Glover. Then wanted to make that move, so she has certainly made her intentions clear. But she wants P14. Phil Glover started in 13th, so possibly might be dropping down a couple of positions, depending on how the next few laps go, of which we only have 7 remaining, bear in mind. It's not too long. These laps do rattle off quick. Remember, this is a very, very short lap. 1 minute lap, this lap is, so it's really not long at all. So, yeah, Again, these drivers, they haven't got too much longer to go. Let's go back up the field. It's 2x2 Noah's Ark style coming down. Paul LeMay is going to be leading this train from Mike Busson, who is now still trying to on the attack. Dave Robertson can't quite get by Phil Jocelyn as it stands at the moment, but Mike Busson's got a very good run down into turn 2. This is where you make the move. There was so nearly contact there. Oh my goodness, how close do you want that to be? That was about as close as you ever wanted to be going through turn 2 in any car. Is Robertson going to have a look? He's brave, going around the outside of turn 4. He's late on the brakes. Oh my God, it's gone. Oh, it's gone wrong. It's all gone wrong. Let's have a replay of that. Oh! We're just making squeaking noises now.
Yeah.
It's really good. Well, I mean, that was a bit of a shake-up. We've got a lot of replays to look at in the next couple of laps or so. It's a shame we didn't catch what happened live there, but the joy of replays is we don't necessarily need to. But meanwhile, David Robertson, he's still pushing forward. He manages to get it stuck. Yes. Is Phil Jocelyn going to make it the switchback, though? He might get a run down into turn 1.
He might indeed. Has he got the run? You, of course, can see Robertson going to the right-hand side. Has Jonathan got the move done around the outside? He's got to be brave on the brakes and, of course, have the trust in Robertson not to run him out of road. It's very close to contact between the two, side by side through turn 1. Paul LeMay is also trying to get into this mix as well. We saw a big slide from Phil Jocelyn a little bit earlier on in the lap. Managed to save it, but, of course, eventually did fall victim to David Robertson. And, a big slide there. That was Paul LeMay getting it all sorts of wrong on the exit of turn 2 and falling off the back of this train. Managed to keep it pointing the right way, which is always good enough. But oh no, Robertson goes off on the exit of turn 5. That invites Jocelyn and LeMay through. He's going to run side by side with the blue car, but on this occasion can't launch the counter attack. And there's small mistakes like that can really add up, because now Jocelyn conceded the place, said all right, fair enough, and then just waited for the mistake, come right back through.
Well, as you know, it pays to be patient in some instances. So yeah, big shame there for Robertson. We still got those replays to look at, very much, so we haven't forgot those. That was very, very close. Using all of the track there from David Robertson. Yeah, very, very close. It's all starting to heat up now, coming into the final third of this race. It's all now starting to kick off a little bit more, and I think Paul LeMay, that was very early in the race for Paul LeMay. Dave Robertson round the outside. Can he keep it going? He is going to have the advantage going down into turn 2, but who's got the exit is Robertson. Yep, so Robertson takes that position, makes that stick. At the moment, Martina Ward, another close battle still going on. Simon Edwards, something's happened to Simon Edwards as well, because Simon Edwards has dropped some time. I can't see anything on the... there's nothing that tells us what actually happened, but either way, the gap at the front... Have a look at that. There you go. There's Simon Edwards and there's Austin Gretorek. Well, I was about to say side by side. They're not side by side. 4/10 apart. Well, they might be in a minute. Yeah, exactly. Who knows? They might very well be. But at the moment, it is Simon Edwards still leading. Now, let's have a look and see if we can find out what happened. This is between Busson and LeMay. So going down into 5. So there were Noah's Ark style going through turn 1. So what happens here? Is it just a bit... Oh, it's a spin. Rear lock.
Self-collected.
Oh, Paul LeMay just got hung out to dry. He couldn't really do much. He had a 50-50 chance, and unfortunately, he chose wrong. So that's what happened to Mike Busson and Paul LeMay there. Bit unfortunate, but that is motorsport. That is racing. It's close, isn't it? Austin Gretorek is close. I wonder if Simon Evans, I wonder if his tyres are just on the cusp of starting to drop off now. This can happen in that final stage of the race, where if you don't look after your tyres, or again, you're not quite used to the tyres. I mean, Simon Evans, they're all very, very experienced drivers. But yeah, I wonder if there's something there, perhaps. But Gretorek didn't get a very good run in the last corner, so maybe the aero wash is holding him back a little bit. Luke Maxwell's just sitting there, just praying that these two will get into a battle so we can catch up. The gap between himself and the Gretorek is, what's that, 2.7 seconds? So... It's going to need to be a big battle over these next... They're going to have to battle constantly side by side for the next 3 laps if Maxwell's going to want to catch up.
And it's going to be that mutual agreement, I think, between Edwards and Gretorek, just to say, come on, we can wait just a couple more laps to fight, because it's so much easier to win a 1v1 than it is a 1v1v1. They're going to not want to have that extra threat from the championship leader of Luke Maxwell breathing down their neck. So maybe they're just going to wait a little while just to settle it on that final couple laps. But of course, Gretorek, he's waited all opportunity for this, all race for this opportunity, I should say, and he's not really going to want to let go. It's going to be that competitive nature overruling his perhaps maybe more rational sense, as we see Martina Ward having a bit of an off on the exit. Not entirely sure where that is, but yeah, that is through in towards turn 2. So not after a a pretty good recovery up the grid that they've had, not the way they would have wanted to enter the closing stages on the back foot. Off goes Paula May once again on the exit of turn 5 into 6, and well, even more so. And here's Simon Edwards. You can see Greatorex all over the rear end. I think the traffic definitely played a part in this. Going to dummy to the left hand side. Is he brave enough on the brakes? Here comes Greatorex. He's got the run around the outside. Goes Simon Edwards though. Dips a wheel onto the gravel. Greatorex going to come back at him. Has he got the momentum? And well, they're certainly not waiting for the last lap, are they?
They're definitely not. 2 laps to go here at Summit Point. Apologies for the very choppy camera angles. There was so much action going on. It was hard to know where to point the cameras. But Simon was still leading the way, a couple of tenths. Now, if Greatorex can get a run out of the last corner, there's almost certainly an opportunity to go for a move down into turn 1, regardless whether it's on the outside or the inside. This car does have good traction if you can keep the car in check. If the car starts squirreling about, that's when it becomes a little bit tricky. But some patience, some perseverance, you can get a good run. That's a very, very quick run there on the exit for Greatorex, even though he's got a bit of aero wash as well from the car in front. Here comes the draft. Is he going to get a move? He's not close enough at the moment. Perhaps he's waiting for a slightly in position. Simon Edwards goes wide. He locks up. Big lock up there for Simon Edwards. Manages to keep it all in check. Then the fact he only loses 1 position, but a small lock up. Again, a small mistake, and that is it. Position lost. He's only 6 tenths behind. He's got 2 laps to go, but 6 tenths considering how close these two have been. That's tricky to make up. That is very tricky to make up.
It comes down to composure. In moments like these, it defines the good from the great. You've got to keep it composed. This is Mike Busson on the back of Dowson in towards turn 1. Has got the inside line. Should be a fairly comfortable move to claim the inside, and indeed does. But again, in moments like that, it's all about composure, keeping yourself nice and cool and collected in those very tight fights that they've had. And well, there goes Martina Ward with yet another mistake. I think maybe Simon Edwards can recover this. Needs, again, just to brush it off the shoulders. Forget about it. It's happened. What can you do now? You can press forward. You can maximize the final lap and a half of this race and at least try. Maybe it could actually be a silver lining, because he's going to have the draft coming onto the final lap, not Greatorex, and could actually be the one launching the offensive.
Possibly so, yeah. Like I said, we can see a couple, like I said, these tyres, they're starting to go in terms of that drop-off position, because you've got, like I said, Martina Ward having a bit of a lock-up, Simon Edwards with a big lock-up. So down in these final stages, that's where it really, really comes a problem. Simon, I wonder if he had another lock-up, because Luke Maxwell, a P2 isn't necessarily not on the cars now for Maxwell. He might have an opportunity here. It's going to have to be a very, very late send, a very, very late lunge. Not going to be down into turn 5. That's not going to happen, unfortunately not. So got a little bit longer. It's close though, Simon Edwards. He's trying to get the car rotating. You could just see a bit of understeer build up on the mid corner then. It's going to possibly be either a last move going into the last corner, or trying to get that position. He might have gone and done it. You know, he's got a good run. He's got a very good run. Are they going to go side by side? Oh my god, they're going to go side by side down into the last corner, possibly. Maxwell around the outside. They're side by side. Austin Greatorex is going to take the win, but who's going to be going into turn down into the start finish line? Who's going to get this? Maxwell. I mean, what a move around the outside for Maxwell. One of the best moves I've seen, period. That was very, very... Simon Edwards did really... Don't get me wrong. Edwards did very, very well and was very sportsmanlike, keeping that space. He could have very, very easily run Maxwell out onto the grass, in all honesty, if he'd have carried a bit more speed through. But he didn't. They were side by side. You know, that was really impressive. Austin Greatorex stayed there, capitalised on a small mistake there from Simon Edwards, and, you know, away you go. But this is the thing. As you say, a small mistake, it turns into a big one. These cars are very susceptible to, you know, the tyres overheating, a small lock-up, tyres are a bit hotter, you try and drive the same pace, you can't, you have a small mistake, that increases it, and it's just you know, it goes on like that, and it continues to go on. So that was a very, very impressive indeed. Very close between Buston and Kirkman as well. They only finished, less than a tenth apart from each other as well. So... two very, very close finishing positions. We'll get you your full grid results in a minute, and then hopefully we're going to be able to have a chat with a couple of drivers as well, and we should be having a chat with a couple of drivers in a few moments' time. But results up on your screen. Austin Greatorex taking that race win by 3.1 seconds in the end. I didn't necessarily think I'd be saying that at the end of this race, not because Greatorex doesn't have the ability to win. Certainly not. But the fact that it was by a margin of that much. Luke Maxwell in second, Simon Edwards in third, Paul Clark fourth, Charlton in fifth, Michael LeMay in sixth, Graham Brown seventh, Kirkman eighth, Busson in ninth, and then Dowson rounding out your top 10. Paul LeMay takes 11th, Phil Jocelyn in 12th, Martina Ward 13th, Richard Brown 14th, Jamie Bird in P15, finishing lap down along with Darryl Taylor and Phil Glover, and then Dave Roldeston, unfortunately retiring 6 laps from the end there. And that is your overall finishing positions. The final few, Dom Webb, another driver 6 laps down, Damien G 8 laps down, and then Scott Lear not making the start. Well, Zach, overall, that was a pretty intense race. We were talking about this at the start, weren't we? About how this is going to be a pretty intense race, and it did not disappoint.
Not in the slightest. And yeah, again, going back to that move from Maxwell and Edwards, it does take 2 to tango at the end of the day. Maxwell had the bravery to keep it pinned, put the trust in Edwards, and respect purely to both of the drivers, but more to Edwards in particular, in that the championship rival, he's on your outside into the final corner of the race. It's tempting just to be like, I'll give him a bit of a nudge, just, I can get away with it. But no, yeah, full respect to everyone, and what a fight it was in the midfield as well. It's often a case that the front runners take all the action, and the midfielders are sort of just left to their own devices because all the attention is taken up by the front. But no, yeah, we managed to have some fights up and down the field, and yeah, wow, yeah, well, what a way to mark the halfway point of the season.
Absolutely, very, very true indeed. So, interview time, and the first person we're going to have an interview with is Mr. Austin Gutierrez. Austin, that certainly went your way in the final few laps. Talk us through those final few laps, the last 4 or 5, because it all changed almost in the blink of an eye.
Yes, hi guys. Yeah, so after obviously Sebring was the last time I was here, and I realised that you had to keep these tyres quite cool, I took the first half of the race quite easy, and then realised I started catching Simon and pressing more, and then I got into his dirty air and thought this is going to be hard work, and then he made a mistake and it opened up and I went for it.
And I think when it comes to, obviously we're talking about this as well, that, tyres, that's something that some of the drivers have been developing and have been learning as well. Is there a big noticeable difference? So when you said you take it easy, is that simply just trying not to push the car as hard at the start of the race? I imagine it's quite difficult though, because obviously you've got to balance that with still maintaining pace.
Oh, 100%. And this is only, I think, my second or third race in this car. And no, it was just Simon I thought would be quicker than me, and Luke got the jump on the start, and I thought I'll let them two run their own race. If I can stay here, I'll be happy with third. And then I realised that where they were pushing slightly and I was just running my own race, that it come to me later on.
Well, there we go. And I tell you what a result that was. Austin, really, really well done. Thank you for jumping in the commentary booth, and yeah, congratulations. We'll catch up with you all being well. We'll see you on the grid for next week.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Have a good evening.
Take care. So, Austin Gutierrez, like I said, certainly wasn't expecting that, I don't think, at the towards the end of the race. So, let's have a quick chat with second place, Luke Maxwell. Luke, thank you very much for joining us in the commentary booth again. Obviously, just talk us through the... those final 2 laps. I asked the exact same question to Austin. I'm going to ask the same question to you. Just talk us through those last few laps, because P3 was pretty much was secure on the cards, and you ended up crossing the line in P2.
Yeah, I think I didn't quite have the pace of those guys, and I was thinking, well, I can't catch them. I'll see if they start to battle towards the end and try and get as close as I can. And yeah, lo and behold, they obviously they did. It was quite intense, and I was getting a bit nearer, and then I could feel my tyres getting really hot, and thinking, oh no, I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to put the pressure on. And then Simon made that mistake, and gave me the ability to have at least a shot, towards the end, and luckily managed to hold it there, which was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Cracking race actually.
It was really good, actually. It was really, really good to watch. Throughout the midfield, as we normally have within this series, where we've got really good battling all the way across the grid. And first half of the season done. I'm hoping we're looking for the same half, the same second half, or even a better second half.
Yeah, I think for me it's a case I'm going to miss. I think it's Suzuka away that week, so I missed the first event, so I'm going to try and certainly get there for all the others if I can. Absolutely.
Well, certainly so, because we're leading the championship. I would certainly be expecting you to. But Luke, really well done on P2, and hopefully we'll catch up with you next week.
Cheers, guys. All the best.
Take care, Luke. Luke Maxwell, second place for us in second place for us in round number 6. So let's have a chat very quickly with Simon Edwards, P3. Simon, two sides of the coin here. Firstly, congratulations on P3, another podium position. But on the flip side, commiserations for not getting the win. Just talk us through it again. I know we've spoken about it before in terms of tyres, but was that something that was causing some problems towards the end of the race?
Not really. Austin had managed to pick up pace, whereas I got to like a level playing field. So once I gave up trying to match his pace, I thought, I'll just do my pace, let him catch me, and then we'll see what happens. And then, for some unknown reason, I braked. We used the cones on the left into the first corner. For some unknown reason, I went a cone row too long. And I'm amazed I actually managed to stop it for the corner. So I swore a bit, but I was happy I was still on the track. And then I couldn't stay with him in the error wash. So I thought, I'll just cruise this last lap, and then just I have no idea how the rear end came round on me in that T1, but I had to lock it all up and then try and do the last lap on melted tyres, trying to cool them down, but I couldn't do it with the the right-handers, sorry. So I was just hoping Luke couldn't get round the outside of me on the last corner, but he managed a brilliant move there. So congratulations to Luke on that. It was a good race. I hate losing when you've been in the lead all the race. You've got pole, but a good race is a good race. I like a bit of pressure, and I failed.
Well, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it's a tricky circuit. It's a tricky circuit. It's still a new car for people. It's only been out 6-7 weeks, so it's not like it's been a new car that's been out for for a long time. It's some development still there, but considering overall a podium position, good points haul, that's brought you, it's kept you within the fighting just going into the second half of the season. But yeah, Simon, again, depending on your commiserations, but also congratulations at the same time. Thank you for tuning and jumping in with us, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Take care, Simon. We are Simon Edward. One more driver to have a chat with, as always, the fantastic Phil Glover. Phil, good to catch up with you again. Talk us through the race. We started, what was that, P17 in the end. We finished having started 13th. We were having some good battles as well. Just talk us through the race from your perspective.
Yeah, so the very first corner, I think somebody tapped me from behind, and so I ended up relatively low down for the next few laps, I think. And it was quite an uneventful race for me, apart from Martina started to catch me and started to put pressure on. I was holding her behind, and then she got a run down and pulled out to take the inside line into that tight corner at the end of, I think it probably is, the corner 1, wasn't it? And I came across to defend a little bit, and of course, as soon as you do that, all your braking points change, and of course, so I ended up going off. So major points to her, because she put me under pressure to make a mistake, which I shouldn't have done really.
Well, I mean, again, learning curve going forward down into the learning curve going down, for the second half of the season. Speaking of which, second half of the season, obviously first half has been done and dusted. What have we enjoyed most about this season with these new cars so far?
Well, to be honest, I quite enjoy them. These cars. I mean, I'm probably not driving it hard enough in the beginning to get the same problem that some of the other guys are getting in terms of the tyre, falling off a cliff towards the end. So, but I quite enjoy it. Obviously, looking forward to the rest of the season, to be honest.
Good stuff. Well, we're looking forward to catching up with you after the races as well for the second half. And yeah, Phil, as always, thank you for tuning in, or jumping in with us. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Take care, guys.
Cheers, Phil. And there we go. Interviews done and dusted. Zach, thank you very much for joining me on for this round on such short notice. Very much appreciated. It's good to catch up again, and I think you picked a very good round to jump in with us.
Yeah, no, it was good timing, and I literally saw the message like, hey, we need someone to jump in 15 minutes time. I was like, nothing better to be doing, why not? Yeah, I'll just be laying in bed baking with the UK heatwave, so jump in and had a lot of fun.
No, it was really, really good, and obviously again, Zach. Big thank you to Zach for jumping in on such short notice, and all being well, Ewan will be back with us next week. But until then, we do have to wrap up. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, an absolute pleasure. Make sure as well you keep up to date with everything on Absolute Sim Racing by subscribing to the YouTube channel. Big thank you to the organisers, admins from the Radical Race Series for keeping this series going and maintaining it. Without them, this series would not be running. And a big thank you to all of the drivers as well for taking part. Gives us something to get excited over and commentate over, which is absolutely fantastic. But we'll see you next week for round number 7. We are past the halfway point. There's still a long way to go. Still a lot of things that can happen and that can change. So we're very much looking forward to that and hope you are as well. But as always, everyone, take care, stay safe.